themselves, which is what I usually do in the first class, so it's kind of laid back, and to tell me, you know, where you're at and what why you took the course and what you are looking for to get out of the course. It's a broad mysticism and spirituality. So some of the things the topics that we'll get into is the cause and effect, you know, the law of reflection. We'll talk about reincarnation. We'll talk about, get into different topics. So it's more like getting into the deeper stuff of spirituality. It's not going to be the mundane. It'll be the deeper information in spiritual stuff and metaphysical stuff. Okay. I don't know if anybody, I mean, I don't usually watch Dr. Oz because I'm lucky if I can get in a little bit of news every day, but he had on his show yesterday, you can also go online and look at his show from yesterday, which I suggest. He had near-death experiences, and I said, oh my goodness, this is all the stuff that we're going to be talking about in the class, deja vu, and I don't think he went into any past life stuff, but we'll get into those things also, and there's reputable people that are studying it and doing research on it. So, okay, because I usually tell that in the beginning. I'm a nurse, an RN, and have always been spiritual and into mysticism and stuff. And I think a lot of nurses are. They're like amazing healers and just into more spiritual stuff. And I would say, after my kids were born, my son started having allergies, and I was rushing him to the emergency room, you know, to get epinephrine shots and different things. And I was seeing how damaging it was and traumatic for him. So I started researching nutrition and diet, and I put him on a, you know, major like diet, you know, and his asthma and his allergies and stuff went away. And so it just, I was like, oh my gosh, you know, I didn't learn this in nursing school, and, you know, drink milk, you know, eat meat, eat potatoes, you know, that kind of food, you know, and I was raised thinking that way. So, you know, I guess they say things happen, you know, and open doors for us for whatever reason. And that was probably in my 30s, maybe, my late 20s and 30s. And so I couldn't stay where I was, what I was doing. I had started a nursing registry. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, like a temporary nursing agency where you rent a nurse. And I had built it up from a room out of my house to an $8 million business, and was nominated, just I'm going to brag a little bit, nominated through the Forbes magazine as Entrepreneur of the Year, and I won runner-up for that. And I was kind of the mainstream, you know, doing, you know, I always say, you know, I don't know if anybody watched Dallas, you know, Joan Collins. I was kind of like Joan Collins, you know, in Dallas, you know, that ruthless businesswoman. And I had this spiritual awakening, which we can talk about later in the class. And I also had a couple of near-death experiences, and it made me change my path, you know. So I started going into holistic, and I was like a little kid in a candy store. I absolutely loved it. And so I ended up going back to school, and I have a bachelor's from Florida State University School of Nursing. So I'm mainstream that way. And then I went to get a master's in holistic nutrition, and I got a PhD in holistic nursing and in metaphysics. So that's my background. So I have two PhDs, one's in holistic nursing and one's in metaphysics, because I felt that the healing and the mind-body connection had to do with spirituality and metaphysics and, you know, whatever. So this will be, I love teaching, and it's my passion. That's why I didn't want to cancel today, because I was like, oh, I love doing this. And I love teaching about spiritual things and metaphysical things. And, you know, one of the things we can also talk about is like dreams, you know, and get into like dream interpretation and, you know, what dreams tell us and what they mean and stuff. So, and then that opened my door to, you know, I have a business now, and I do consulting, and I teach. And I teach about, my main thing is nutrition, because I'm big about eating healthy. I think it's real important. so then you have clarity. And there's always, every day, whether you believe in, I would say, God or Buddha or, Mohammed or whoever you believe in, the source or higher power or whatever it is, there's always messages every single day. It's whether we choose to listen to them or see them. And if we can, that's what I'm saying, to kind of get out of the box and to see like those signs, like what reminds me of is you think of somebody and then you see them in the store, or they call you. There's always, every single day, if we can hold, to me, I mean, when you turn on the news and you see the horror on the news, it's depressing and it's frightening, but if you can hold on to those little spiritual things, you just have to know that with your near-death experiences, God wanted you to stay, you had gifts to bring and things to do, So we just have to hold on to those experiences that make us feel good, because otherwise it would be depressing. So every day I feel that we're shown those things, and it's whether we choose to acknowledge them, and we don't always know at the time maybe what the message is, but at least to see it. So, okay. I keep thinking about writing a book on stories, because I'm a storyteller, and I have like so many interesting stories. And some of you that have taken my classes before have heard these stories. But one of the stories, let me think, I'm trying to think what. I've had many, many out-of-body experiences. I still get them. They're like weird if you ever experience them. I think that we all get them, but we just don't maybe know that we get them. And I remember when I was, I don't know, about 8 years old or something, and I had to go, not to the principal's office, but like to a authoritative figure office. And the person was sitting in the chair at the desk, and I was sitting in the chair there. And they were talking to me. And I think I was like 8 years old or whatever, and I remember the room, and I don't remember exactly who it was, but I remember what he looked like. And I remember that I'm, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Like, it's not that bad little kid inside of you, but it's almost like that devious, little mischievous child or whatever it is. And I remember as they were talking to me, I was kind of like, whatever, this is, like authoritative and not being nice or whatever it is, kind of like reprimanding. And I remember that I was sitting in the chair, and all of a sudden I got out of my body and I was walking backwards, and before I knew it, I was at the door going out, and I was standing there, but my body was in front of me. And when I was little, I used to have these experiences, and I never knew what they were. And I would, go home, and I'd either start crying to my mother and telling her what happened to me, and I couldn't, process what I was trying to communicate or what I was trying to say. I couldn't really get the words out correctly or whatever at that young of an age. And my mother had taken me to like counselors and like social workers or whatever it is, and I'd go to counseling, and they could never figure it out. And kids, when they're born, have this connection, they always say until they're about 7 or 8, to other realms and to other dimensions. But that after that age of 7 or 8, they close that down, and then they, start living in this realm, whatever it is. So when children are, like, for example, my son, when he was little, he would always say he was a pirate, and he started telling me about being a pirate and about, stealing jewels, and he went into these, and, he was 5 or 6 years old, not old enough to really know about pirates, because I never really told him about it and didn't educate him on it, and he didn't know about the jewels, and he started naming these jewels or whatever. So he was, when he was telling me this story, he was in that life. I remember him sitting in the back of the car, and he went on and on and on. I just I was always told to let them talk about it. Instead of as a parent, we go, oh, that's ridiculous, you weren't a pirate and, you didn't have, that experience or whatever. So it's not acknowledging them and what they're feeling as children. Or I'm a princess, or, I'm a queen and I live in a home and I have these robes. And, I always tell my daughter, I said, because she always, all the time, she wanted to be the queen, she wanted to be the princess, she wanted to play princess, whatever it is. As she got older, kind of got old, and I would say to her, just remember that in this lifetime you're not, and you were in that lifetime, so we have to, act accordingly or whatever it is. But it's interesting because our souls are complicated. So if you start to think about, and you get overwhelmed with it, if you start to think about if you had 1,000 lives before you were here, and you bring all those lives into this life, how complicated as human beings we actually are. So when I teach my nutrition courses, I don't know if anybody remembers this, sometimes I always say, mushrooms, some people cannot eat mushrooms, they don't like mushrooms, or they cannot eat something. And sometimes it has to do with a past life thing. Maybe they worked on a mushroom farm in their last life and they just can't think about eating another mushroom. So if you try to make them eat a mushroom, they just, it wouldn't work for them. So we're very complicated and things are like really deep setted. So I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Brian Weiss.
Yes.
Okay. I heard him, my mother-in-law actually took me to hear him speak many, many years ago, probably in the, I don't know if it was in the 80s or whatever. And I went to a couple of his seminars, and he has a big group, and he does a meditation, and he tries to put you into this trance, and he regresses you into a past life. And I thought it was like the coolest thing, because I had an experience, I had a couple of experiences when I went to his seminar, and I did that. I had heard, and I don't know if this is accurate, that, he went to an Ivy League school, and he tried to get into programs with his knowledge about past life stuff. And as a psychiatrist, his background is psychiatric. And they told him he was a quack, and they boo-hooed him, and they made fun of him, or whatever it is. And now he's running Mount Sinai Medical Center, or something, down the Mount Sinai, Miami Beach. He's down there, and he's running the facility, and he does past life regressions. And I think, because I had thought about working with him one time, because I was kind of stuck on some issues, there's like a 2-year waiting list. There was then. This was a long time ago. So I guess you have to find your niche, and you have to find, where he was rejected so many times to try to pursue his career and to bring this knowledge out. So he ended up going to Mount Sinai in Miami Beach, and they took him in, and he can do what he wants to do, and he can regress patients, and he heals them of a lot of phobias. Because people, a lot of times if you have a fear of something or you have phobias, it could be because of some past life issue. So, you can dwell on that. You can go like, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Part of my credentials, I did a year-long past life thing. And you can go and you can get regress, which I did, and you can experience these past lives, but you can get stuck in it, and then you're not really living in this realm. So some people are against it because of that reason, that you have to live in the here and the now. But then other people believe that if you actually heal something from the past, then you can move on with your life and understand where that came from. So, it's interesting because life isn't like, it's not what we think in some ways. There's different realms, and there's different dimensions. So you can kind of travel to these different dimensions and travel these different realms and then get information. And that's how like psychics work when they do readings, when you go to have a reading from a psychic. They may go into your past lives, or they may go into the past, or they may go into the future, or whatever it is. But going into the future is not always accurate, because just going to tell you my opinion on that, because I could do psychic stuff on people. But I'll give you an example. If somebody comes to me and they want a reading, or they want to, know something. Okay, I want to know if I should move into one of these homes. Home A, home B, home C. Okay, and they tell you all about the homes. And you can go into the energy of each one of the homes and tell them what the home is going to be, and maybe what it's going to bring, or whatever it is. And then if they don't like anything that you say, okay, because God gives us choice of free will. So if you don't like anything that the psychic tells you, then you can leave, and you can say, well, I don't like any of those choices, none of those homes sound good to me, and then God will throw you 3 other homes with 3 other choices. Does that make any sense? So you really can't know what the future is going to be in some ways, because it has to do with choice of free will, it has to do with people that are involved, it has to be, God's will, so it gets really complicated. So some of those things I'm apprehensive about with some things, and you can also switch energy very quickly. So like, say you're very psychic and you can see something coming, or whatever it is, you can change the energy by doing something differently, and then you prevent something from happening, if that makes any sense. So you're shown, if you pay attention and you listen, you're shown something, and then you can see it beforehand, and you can switch it beforehand. And that's, a good example, a basic example of that could be, let's see. Okay, anybody have animals? I'm trying to use something, a basic example. And you wake up and your animal has to go to the bathroom when they get up. If you do not take them to the bathroom, if you do not take them outside and walk them, then eventually they're going to have to go in the house. Okay, so you know that you need to walk the dog when it gets up so it can go out and go to the bathroom, otherwise it's going to go in the house. Those are kind of basic things, and sometimes if you really listen, they can be even more deeper. Like we're given stuff, because I don't believe that there's secrets, and I don't believe that God doesn't want to show us stuff to help us. I believe it's there. It's whether we choose to see it, or choose to hear it, or choose to act on it. So, I don't know if anybody has any questions. Anything? Okay. So another story that I have is related to past lives. Is when I was little, I was born in Florida, raised in Florida. I don't know if anybody knows about Florida. And they have palmetto bugs. And they're like cockroaches, but they're like dinosaur cockroaches. I mean, they're just inhuman. I mean, they're huge. They're like this big, and they have wings, and to me, they were the scariest things. So we have them in the house, or you have them when you go places, or whatever. There were roaches. It's big in Florida. So I was always scared of roaches, and I think I had this beam of light around me that said, she's afraid of roaches. So if a roach was in a room, I could be in a room of 300 people, the roach would find me and land on me. It would be like, I just was like a magnet. I just attracted them. And I always had them like getting stuck in my hair, or crawling up my legs or something. It was like horrible. And I remember my husband and I got married, and we were moving from Florida to Falls Church, Virginia. So I just got this luggage out of my mom's closet, and just opened it up and put all this stuff in it, didn't check it, and then we get to the hotel room and I open the luggage and this roach flies out, Not my husband's luggage, no, but my luggage, you know, it's in my luggage. So I was beside myself, and my husband's on the floor, he's laughing so hard, he's like hysterical, he just thinks it's the funniest thing, and I am not, it's like a woman with a mouse, you know, I'm not happy about it. So as I'm trying to, I said, I'm not sleeping in the room, we had to change rooms, I'm not staying in here, and, you know, he said, you know, we're talking, and as I'm talking to him, I look down and the roach is on my thigh.
Oh my God.
You know, and I was just like beside myself. So I remember when I met Brian Weiss and I did this past life regression, I got regressed to a life in India. And I was in India. And I know that I've had many lives there, but this was one of the lives. And I was on the ground, barely alive, covered with roaches. And I remember when I processed that and I went through it and I had this realization afterwards, I wasn't afraid of the roaches. They don't bother me, they don't come to me. It was this, you know, so I was healed of that phobia and that fear. And that's what the gift of what his work is and what he does for the people that do regressions can do. So it's just, I mean, it's like another bug to me, you know. I mean, I don't personally like any bug on me, but, you know, I don't have this hysterics that I used to have with a roach being on me. So people believe in it. You know, people have different fears, you know, flying or different fears of all kinds of things, and they work through these phobias with getting regressed into past lives. The only thing that I say that I can say, the couple things that I experience with doing that is, number one, like I said, you don't always, what's the word I'm trying to think of? You don't always, when you're getting regressed, and you're doing it, you're not living in the moment as much. And you're bringing in that past life into the present life. And so it can be difficult to stay in the moment, if that makes any sense. Because you will get, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Flashbacks of that past life. Once you open that door, that's the danger of it. So it's, and then you can't, sometimes you cannot disassociate between this life and another life, if that makes any sense. You'll bring both lives in, because they're open, the door is open for that life, and you bring those lives in, and then you can't stay in this moment, or you can't associate, you disassociate, if that makes any sense. Does that make any sense? How I'm explaining it? That it's like in a marriage or relationship, and something happened in the past, and you keep bringing it up and bringing it up. Well, you did, no, you know, and you did that, you know. Remember when you did this? It's the same thing. It's trying to close that door, so the door doesn't keep opening up and then affecting the present. I always wonder if sometimes too that part of our lesson or part of our, you know, issues that we have to deal with is humans are humans, you know, and they just, you know, we're multifaceted and we have all these different parts of us, personally and emotionally and everything else, and it's really hard for us to be consistent or committed or, you know, all these different issues that we have. But I always find that for me, and what I realized, and maybe it's taken me a long time, you know, to realize that, but just mostly recently, is that I always feel like, and I just believe in God and I'm very spiritual, and I just believe that no matter what, that God's always there. You know what I'm saying? And all I have to do is just, get on the computer and journal, or journal in a journal book, or have conversations, or whatever it is. And yeah, walk around sometimes and I look like I'm talking to myself, but I'm not really, and I don't really care if somebody thinks that, whatever it is. But that, to me, is consistent, always there. It could be 2 o'clock in the morning, and I could, ask for assistance or ask for guidance or whatever it is. Whereas people, if we depend on people, we need to depend on people for certain things, but then sometimes we over-depend on people, if that makes any sense. So maybe one of the things with you in this lifetime is not being married and not having kids, and that your connection with God, or whoever you want to call your higher power, or whatever it is, that your connection there is consistent, stable, there for you. And so a lot of times you can then let go of or work through those abandonment issues. You just have to realize that people do the best that they can do. I always say I think people do the best that they can with what they have. It's interesting because I know that too with people that, people come into your life and that, you feel like you know them, or you've, I have an issue with names, and I thought about that too with, can't always remember people's names sometimes. And I think some of that is because, and then sometimes I'll call somebody a name, it's not even their name. And I feel like that's their name. So the only thing I can explain it is that I know them from a past life, and that was their name in a past life, and that's what I remember them as. So I want to call them, that name that I remember them as, which is very interesting. So if you see things, if you try to see things in a different way, or more like pushing through is a good word. If you just kind of push through the boundaries, so you say, okay, why can't I remember this person's name? A lot of times intuitively you get the answer by yourself. I must know that person from someplace else, another lifetime, with a different name or something. So, I like to, when I'm talking, if anybody has any questions, it's fine if you want to raise your hands and ask stuff. I don't know if anybody has any questions at this point. So the first class is mostly just introduction, and I wanted to get to know all of you and to get to know why you took the class and what you're looking for. And then what we'll do the next classes is we'll take a subject and we'll just stay on that subject, and maybe veer a little bit, giving examples or explanations, but we'll pick I have a list of the things that I'm going to cover, and sometimes I will recommend some readings too, like with Brian Weiss. I know you can get his book at the library if nobody's read his book. It's very interesting. His book is Many Lives, Many Masters. He's got several books.
That's his first book.
Yeah. And I've recommended it to a lot of people, and it's fascinating. I don't want to tell you about the book because I want you to read the book. But he talks about, his situation of how he got into doing past life regressions, and that's what he does. He's really done incredible work with it. And now, I don't know, God bless you. I don't know if, my background, I'm Jewish, and I know that in Judaism, I was really surprised that they believed in reincarnation.